please welcome to the stage one of my heroes, Mr. Kofi Annan. Sir, it's indeed an honor to have you with us today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here, to be with so many young people who make me feel very young today.
Mr. Annan, when we were just backstage, people were coming up to you and they were asking you questions about peace, very complex questions about creating a better world. And I stood next to you thinking, what it must feel like to be you. Even now that you're retired, constantly recognize people seeking guidance on all these important issues. What does that feel like, sir, when those moments happen?
Well, sometimes you go around and people will get up to introduce you and they will say, here is a man who doesn't need any introduction. But you have to be careful not to be fooled by that. Let me share an experience my wife and I had with you. When I stepped down as Secretary General, we realized how tired we were. You never know how tired you are until you stop. When you have something to do, you keep going. So we decided to take 3 months off, go to Como in Italy, borrow a house adjacent to the forest so that we can slip out of the house, walk through the forest without going to the village. And we're going to do this for 3 months. No television, no radio, and no newspapers. After 3 months, I was beginning to get bored. So I told my wife, let's go to the village to see if we can get a paper. We had barely entered the tobacconist shop when a group of men standing at the corner kept staring at us. And one of them broke off and made directly for me. So I said to my wife, oh my gosh, we have 6 weeks to go and we've blown our cover. How are we going to manage the village? By then the fellow was on top of me and he put his hand out and said, Morgan Freeman. May I have an autograph? And I said, sure. I signed K. Freeman. He was very happy, and we were happy, continued our holidays incognito. But
a man of great humility and humor and a great humanitarian.
Yeah, good.
You know, sir, you know, as Secretary General, you faced enormous challenges at competing interests, countries, governments. What do you view today as the single greatest challenge or cause facing our world?
I think the biggest challenge facing us and the future generation is the climate change. It's our environment. Climate change is an all-encompassing threat. It's a threat to our way of life, our security. It can lead to conflict with people fighting over limited resources. So we have to have a mind shift and change our lifestyles. We cannot continue to plunder the resources of the world as if there's no tomorrow. We have to think of the children. Yeah.
Yes, sir, you talk about plundering the resources, thinking of our children. You took on issues like war, violence, genocide, environmental degradation. How do you personally keep your hope and optimism?
I think it is important to keep hope alive. First of all, you have to look at history and understand that enmity between peoples do not last forever. When we look back in history, countries and peoples who fought together, who are today friendly, who are today cooperating, it gives you hope. But when I look at the young people, I talk to lots of young people, their attitude, their determination to make a difference, their innovative spirit and their desire to change things gives me hope. And it is exciting. And we, the older generation, should work with them to take over. We talk of generational change, but we don't prepare them to take over. We try often to tell them, you are not old enough. You don't have to be old to lead. You don't have to be old to take an initiative.
Are you ready to fulfill that challenge? You ready to take over? The young people here to lead?
No, and you don't necessarily have to go and take on the biggest issues in the world. You can do something in your own community, in your school, and and organize yourself with friends to correct something that you believe is wrong. And that's how you begin to lead. It begins in the community, in schools, and it begins with what you're doing. That's why I'm so excited to see so many of you here.
So you speak about schools. Now, you are a professor now, which, as an aside, that is a class I would want to take. We have with us thousands of amazing and dedicated teachers. What advice would you give to the teachers here today?
I think before I dare give the teachers advice, let me say that we as society should have much greater respect and appreciation for what teachers do every day. And create the conditions and the means for them to prepare the younger generation, particularly the girls, the women around the world. When you empower women, And I would suggest to the teachers that what they can do for the kids is to excite their creativity. Inside their creativity, get them to dream, get them to think about what they would want to do or the world they want to live in. One should not put any inhibitions on them. They may be daydreaming on us, but there's something comes out of it. It starts with a dream. The kids should be allowed to dream, to go through their childhood, but they must have curiosity. They must be excited to discover and to explore, and to take on challenges without fear.
And if you were in charge of the schools here, what would be one thing that you would put into the curriculum?
That's an interesting question. I think I would encourage them to take history seriously. History, yeah.
A lot of history teachers here are cheering you on that one, sir.
It sounds as if we have lots of history teachers in the hall. But I think because without a sense of history, it is extremely difficult to develop a vision and know where you're going and what to do. And so history roots us and is extremely important. But of course, there's also the question of science. Science is going to be a very important part of the solutions we find for the issues confronting us. And appreciation and understanding for science, whether in the way we produce food to feed ourselves, the way we use materials, how we can be effective in ensuring that we limit waste. And finally, I would want to say that individual action is very important. As individuals, we have power, but we often don't appreciate it. Take the environment. Individuals can organize and push the issue of climate change higher up the political agenda and get politicians to pay attention. They can put pressure on companies by the choices they make, what they choose to buy when they go to a supermarket. And so we do have power as individuals. We should use it.
And sir, as our time comes to a close, you created the Kofi Annan Dialogues, which is a connection between yourself and youth, including social media, which is very cool. What would be the final message that you want every young person in this room to remember?
I think the young people have to remember that the world is going to be yours. It's your world now. My generation is moving on. And you have to have the courage and the strength to take on some of the issues. As I said, in your own little way, not the big issues. Organize yourself and be prepared to work with your neighbors, with your colleagues, to make a difference. And you can make a difference. The conversations I've had with you makes me trust you and believe you can make this world a better place. So go out and do it. Thank you.
We are ready to take on that challenge from Mr. Annan.